pass you dry. Do you know I'm looking, and I can't help but smile? Do you know how much I love you? You put my favorite song on, I put my feet up, and we just sing along. And I can't help but feeling, just loving this moment. Can we stay here forever? I'm loving this moment. Can we stay here?
Hello beautiful people, I hope you're doing wonderful. As some of you know, I got married about 3 months ago, and that was hands down the best day of my life. However, the process of organizing the wedding was an incredible roller coaster. And the first challenge was obviously the fact that I only had 6 months to organize the wedding due to visa requirements. Nevertheless, we pulled it off, and it was an imperfectly perfect wedding. Now, right from the start of organizing, I had so many questions that needed to be answered. So I did a lot of research, and the good news is that I'm going to share some of these things that I found out that helped me with organizing my wedding. Now, I realize that every couple is different, and so what I'm about to share is not the only way, but may help you in making your planning easier. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing is, you need to set a budget. Basically, it is important that you and your partner decide on what your budget is, and you need to work within that budget. Try not to break the bank. If anything, it's always important that you try to set out everything, decide on all the things that you want to do, whether you find the location, and then you find what the price is and all that are, and then trying to pay them in installments, because a lot of wedding venues will definitely do installments because they know how it is crazy expensive. And then the other thing is you need to also, within that budget, plan for a honeymoon. I know some people don't really believe that having a honeymoon is important, but from personal experience, just after the wedding is finished, because remember, there's an intense period of 6 months or so, and I find that it's usually really, really stressful. So many things that you have to think about, and while you're organizing a wedding, you're also working. And so I just find that by the end, once you get married, you're just so exhausted, and you don't really feel it until you actually go away. And I found that going outside of your home where you normally live will actually help you to properly relax. I would recommend it. I understand that some people are not able to, maybe your financial state is not able to, you're not able to do that, and if that's the case, well, I can't really dispute that. But if where possible, absolutely have a honeymoon. Okay, next point is, how many guests do you want to invite? So what we did was we said, okay, well, we want X amount of guests, okay? And then we split it right in the middle, and then we say, okay, so my partner has got, you have, let's say 50, right? So he'll have 20 to invite, I have 20 to invite, and then maybe the 10 you can give it to, you can say, okay, your mom can invite 5 people, because the reality is a lot of times your parents also have friends that they would like to invite, and a wedding is such an achievement for the family as well, so it's always good to consider them also being able to invite their friends and be a part of the wedding. However, if you're having a strictly small wedding, that's fine as well, because at the end of the day, the wedding is mainly for the bride and groom, and it is up to each couple what they decide, what is important, and all that kind of stuff. As personally, I have a little bit of a different scenario, because Laurence's family, a lot of them were coming from overseas, and it was quite expensive for, you know, for some people to be able to make it. And then also, you know, he had grandparents that are much older and were not able to fly, unfortunately, which was really sad. But that's just the reality. And then he had a small group of people that came. I, on the other hand, have a large family, and so at the end of the day, it was not as equal, but we still made it work. We tried to marry culture as well as, you know, contemporary and what we really wanted. And I think at the end of the day, it was, you know, like a good amount of people. I think there was about 80 guests that we ended up having. Obviously, there was a few last minute cancellations, which is something that you can not really avoid. But I think at the end of the day, as long as it's a wonderful day, which usually is, that's all that matters. Okay, next point is, what kind of venue do you want? Now, this is very, very important because it will help you to decide on a whole lot of things. So basically, do you want an outdoor or indoor, or do you want both? You know, so for example, we did the wedding ceremony was outdoor, and then the wedding reception was indoor. But for us, it worked out perfectly, and it wasn't a very hot day, so the men were comfortable in their suits. Anyway, so, and then you got to look at the theme. What is your theme? What are the colors you want to use? Do you want a bohemian kind of, you know, wedding, rustic, country, modern, or contemporary? It's all things that you need to decide, whether it's between, you know, like the couple, or you want to consult with some family members. It's all up to you. I would highly recommend going on Pinterest. Pinterest is really, I just found it really, really helpful. Watching some YouTube videos of, you know, what people have done before, and talking to friends and family that have done their weddings before. Instagram, you know, going on pages like on bridal pages especially. There's some magazines and all that if you're into that. I'm not really so much into paper, but if, yeah, that's another thing that definitely you'll find lots of inspiration there. We got married at our location was Ocean View Estates, and it's a winery. And it was just beautiful. It was a little bit up the mountain, and so it was just good views. And then we've got the, you know, beautiful, this place in particular had beautiful wine, and they also had craft beers. So yeah, before you start planning the wedding, you always have these ideas of what you would like your wedding to be like. And then once the time comes, and once you do all your research and all that kind of stuff, you actually end up finding that sometimes you change a few things, and that is fine. I just think that it's, as long as it works and you're happy with it, that's all that matters. Okay, next point is invitation cards. Do your invitation cards quite early on or later on. Now, this obviously all depends on if you've gotten all the information in terms of like the dates, the time, the location, and whether you have set how many people are coming to your wedding. Now, the other thing is, we also, you know, like I had questions of what do I put in my invitation, you know, in my invitation card. Our invitation card was a folding one, and on one side we had like a verse or like a poem or a message that is really important for the both of you, and then we had the date and time and location. I think the location we put on the next page. So on the next page, then we had the location, and then because our location was up on a mountain and the road was really, really windy, so we put that as a note. You know, think about the safety of your guests. So I did write that location is on a windy road. So it's just to alert people that, look, if you're gonna drink, you need to be very careful. You can't, you know, you have to be alert to drive back especially. And then we put information such as like, you know, dietary requirements. We ask people to RSVP and let us know if they've got any allergic reactions and all that stuff, because it's really important. I've been to some weddings and they didn't have any of that. The guests might not be able to eat because there's nothing really that's organized for them. What else did we put? We put also gifts. So the gifts we put on, we added a separate piece of paper which basically just said, if you want to gift us at all, we would prefer wishing well, whatever you would like. So we did that, and then we also put a dress code, just because I don't know, I'm just one of those people that envision my wedding a certain way, and so I really would, you know, wanted for people to be able to respect that. So for example, I'll just make it clear for example, I said girls can wear anything but not to wear yellow, because that was the color of my bridesmaids, and then not to wear white because I'm wearing white, and not to wear black because for me black and weddings just doesn't go. Black for me is like, I associate it with funerals, so I just didn't really want, you know, like black at my wedding. However, for the guys, it was okay for them to wear black suits, because there's not many colors in suits, is there? And it doesn't really look so bad. And I feel like black in suits is always like, it goes with any event. Anyway, enough about me ranting about that. We used Vista Print to get our invitation cards. They had a few different designs which we really liked, so we went with that. But do your own research and see what you can find. And obviously Vista is online, so you should be able to get that, I think, anywhere in the world. But for some of the places that I'm going to mention, or some of the vendors, obviously they're local in Brisbane, so apologies for that. Okay, next point is, how much per head am I willing to pay? With this, every wedding location, or usually will have packages that will start from cheap to low to, you know, more expensive. At our location at Ocean View Estates, they had the cheapest package was, I think it was between $79 or $89 per head, and it was more of a grazing platter. And then the next one, I think it wasn't a grazing platter, so I think it was just like 2 courses, and I think that was it. And the third one was like a 3-course. So we went for the third one, where it had canapes. So we had 1 hour of canapes, and then we had a main meal, and then we had our cake served as the dessert. Now you've got 2 options there, so you can either get so ours was a 3-course meal, so it actually had also a dessert as part of that package. However, they said that if you want to serve your cake as the dessert and you don't want extra dessert, you can do that, and they take $5 off each person. So that's what we ended up going with, because we were spending a good amount of money on the cake, and we were excited about the flavors we had picked. So we thought that it would be really nice for people to actually, you know, like have our cake as dessert and just add like a little bit of like raspberry coulis and stuff like that. So that's what we did, and it was really good. So that's what we ended up going with. There's obviously 4-course meal, 5-course meal, 6-course meal. Whatever you fancy, whatever your pocket is saying is what you're gonna do. Next point is, how much do you want to spend on your dress? The wedding dress. Wedding dress. I think almost every girl has dreamt about, you know, wearing a wedding dress, being in a white dress. And if you haven't, that's fine. Again, everybody is different. But I've definitely dreamt about myself being in a wedding dress, and this was the day. I mean, this was the time. And it was actually a little bit stressful to me, and a bit of pressure, just because you don't know where to start. And the fact that I had very little time to organize everything, I was very nervous. And I'm not the kind of person that really wanted to go to bridal expos. I didn't want to go from one from one shop to another, trying on all these ginormous dresses and all that. I did maybe 3 times. Two of those were in Melbourne with one of my closest friends, Gail, and it was fun while I was doing it with her, but I was just like, I couldn't do so much more of that. Anyway, I did a bit of research online. Actually, I did a lot of research online, looking at different, bridal shops and all this kind of stuff. I did call some of them. I ended up going to a place called the Bridal Company, which is on the Gold Coast. It's actually off the Gold Coast Highway. And their dresses basically range from anything from $500 to I think $3,000. Not too sure on that. But I basically I went the first time to kind of like just have a look around, and I didn't really feel like I found anything. And then I looked around other shops and I couldn't find anything either. So then I went again with my mum here, because the thing about me was I wanted to make sure that I got a dress that was not so expensive that, I felt scared to be myself and trash it and just enjoy myself on the day. I really just wanted a dress that I look fabulous in. You need to look fabulous, but at the same time, it didn't break the bank and you're worrying about somebody stepping on it every 2 seconds. So I went with my mom. We tried on a few 2 or 3 dresses, and then this particular, the dress that I ended up wearing, it just, I don't know, something just about it, like the threading and the design was simple yet so elegant. And at the time, actually, it was just a boob tube. So basically, I found the dress, and both me and my mom said yes to the dress. And so the only thing I needed to do was just a little bit of altering because it was a bit too long. So we did that, and actually there was a bit of material that remained from the alteration, and so I decided to get some sleeves because I really liked some sleeves. So we did that, and the dress that you see is the result of a little bit of a seamstress work and Bridal Company. Next point. Do I need a wedding planner or hire things and do DIY? This is a big one. Wedding planners. Now, some wedding locations come with a wedding planner. Well, they say that you have to have a wedding planner, and if that's the case, you can't do anything about that. It really comes down to, if you have the budget for a wedding planner. I found that they're fairly expensive. At least the ones that I looked at. So what I did was I hired some things from a place called One Stop Wedding Shop. And the good thing with them is that they actually had their people decorate the place with the things that they brought. So that made it really easy. And so then I just did a little bit of DIY with like some fruit, as you can see, and it all turned out really, really well. And then also the other things that I did DIY, which actually was help from my some of my family members and Lawrence's family members, was that they did, for example, like our food menu, and they did like our seating plan. So, and shout out to Veronica. Veronica is Lawrence's younger sister. She is so good with calligraphy. The wishing well, there's some things that we hired like from the wedding location. Figure out what your wedding venue provides for free or not for free, and then do your assessment and see what works. So it saved us a lot of money being able to do a bit of DIY and a bit of just hiring things from a vendor that was able to decorate the things. Next point is, are your guests, do they drink or not? We had a mix. So we basically, there's, some people that didn't really drink much. And then we had some people that, enjoyed, their drinks. And so we basically decided on going with a minimum spend tab. So there's usually 2 to 3 options. So you can either do like a minimum spend bar tab, or you can do an open bar tab, or you can choose like a specific package. I just found that a little bit expensive. But yeah, it really depends on how many people you're inviting to the wedding and what your guests are like. Next point is, are you providing transport or accommodation for your guests? So I think a lot of this usually depends on whether you're having like a destination wedding or whether you're having, you know, your location or your venue is a bit remote. I think it is always important to see if you can organize like transport for everyone, because then that kind of like gets everybody there at the same time. And then the other thing is accommodation. Like, you know, there's sometimes some of the wedding locations are really incredible, but they're a little bit remote, and so trying to organize accommodation, and I'm not saying that you pay for your guests necessarily, but you kind of like see if the location can give you some discounts and all that kind of stuff for your guests, and making sure you communicate that to your guests quite early so that they can organize themselves. Next point is, do you need a photographer and a videographer, or do you want just a photographer or just a videographer? For us, it was important that we had both photography and videographer, and so for us it was very important that we document everything that that was happening on that day, because I think that great memories down the track, because you know things happen, and you know sometimes you just need a reminder of the person that you married and how wonderful that day is. And so we used a company called Real Idea, and it was fun with them, you know, giving us directions and all this kind of stuff. So shout out to Real Idea, and they're very understanding, because there's some things that we didn't really like with the video, and they were able to edit it. So really, really good. I know that some people would prefer just a photographer, and that's fine, but I think that it's very important to have a video, because it's one thing, I think that with photos, you basically have a moment frozen in time, and that's it. With a video, you see everything, like the movements and all that, and I just think that both of them are important, but if your budget is small, that's fine. Next is, how do you want to arrive to the venue? Initially, like Laurence didn't think that it was important to actually have, spend or have a good budget for that, until, like after the wedding, and it's like, oh my goodness, we're so glad that we had a good budget for that, and we ended up hiring the car that I came in. So I think that personally, the most important person that needs to arrive, with a lot of drama, is the bride. The groom, I think that, and this is what we did, if you have a friend or a family member that has got a nice car, I would recommend that you use that, and then spend money only for the bride's car ride. So we got a Jaguar, an old Jaguar, and we'll put photos and everything so you can see it. So we got an old Jaguar from Wheels to Wedding. That's the company, and oh my goodness, we had the most amazing chauffeur. Yes, that's the right word. He was so kind to us. He packed a little picnic for us as well. So it was me and my two bridesmaids, and it was just truly incredible experience. And thank you so much to Wheels to Wedding. I would highly recommend you guys to anybody. But there's other options, such as like a much newer car, a helicopter, a horse ride, a carriage, whatever tickles with your fancy, whatever you can afford. I highly recommend that you spend some money on it, because it can be used as a prop for your photos, and really, really cool. Next point is fresh or dry flowers or fake flowers. So I recommend to have fresh flowers, especially for the wedding, as part of the wedding decor, at least somewhere. And you can always use fake flowers, just here and there, but if possible, use fresh flowers. We use One Stop Wedding Shop. I just found that this was probably the cheapest place in like anything to do with weddings, so I highly recommend it. As far as I know, they only have one shop in which is in Brandale, which is, you know, like north side. I recommend that you actually go and visit their shop and kind of like pick and choose what you want. Second last is, do you want a DJ or live music? We used both. The live music was for when I was walking to the ceremony, and then for the DJ was anything after that. Lastly but not least is, you know, your idea of a cake. We did cake tasting, which I think that is very, very important, because you'd be very surprised that you might like a different, you know, like taste to what your partner wants. So for example, I liked something with a little bit of cinnamon, and Laurence loved like the mud cake. And the good thing about our cake baker, she was able to actually, because we wanted 3 tiers, so she actually did 3 tiers of different flavors of cake, which we really were really grateful for. And so we ended up having all the flavors that we wanted, and oh my goodness, Confetti Cake, you guys are amazing, and I would highly recommend them to anyone. The only thing is, obviously they are based in Debra, which was close to our wedding location. We were not charged for any transport because, you know, like they were 15 minutes from our wedding location. And also, you know, just transportation makes it so much easier. That's all. That was 15 points altogether. I'm pretty sure if you go through this list and ask yourself all these questions, you know, like, and find answers to all of them, like, you should be set for your wedding. If you're getting married in 2020, I wish you all the very best. It is going to be such an incredible best day of your life, literally. And if you're already married, woohoo! Thank you for tuning in. I will leave all the links to the vendors I have mentioned in the description box below. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, to like and comment. And till next time, please stay fabulous and live your colorful adventure. Thank you. Mwah.